First of all, I would like to say Tashit Delek to all the viewers. And today, as I was asked by Sakya Manjushri Center, Taipei, Sakya Foundation, Spain, and Sakya Topenling, Kaohsiung, I will give a series of teachings on departing from the four attachments, which was taught by the great Arya Manjushri. Generally speaking, whenever and whatever virtues that we do, first and foremost, it is very, very important to have the right motivation, to have the right intention, why we are doing this, why we are doing Dharma practice, or why we are listening to the Dharma teachings. If we don't have right intention, then whatever we do will not have a great result. So, in order to have a great result from our effort, from our practice, from our study, or from our Dharma teachings, it is very important to generate the right motivation. So, right motivation means first we need to develop the thought of renunciation, which means first we need to realize the nature of the samsara. For example, in this world, many people think the way to gain happiness or achieve happiness is to put effort and to develop the material world. But just by developing the material world, we will not gain the real inner happiness. As we can see, in last few decades, there has been a great improvement in our material world, as we all can see. But it doesn't mean that nowadays we are more happy or we are happier than in the past. So it clearly shows or clearly indicates that the material development alone is not the real cause of happiness. And also, many people think if they move to a better place, if they move to a developed city or developed country, then they can gain happiness. But just by changing the physical place will not give us the real inner happiness. As we can see, people who are moving from backward countries to a developed country, after moving there, they still face lots of problems. They still have lots of anxiety, worry, and also they still have many physical pains and sufferings. So, not only that, even in developed countries, there are many people who commit suicide, who have mental problems because of anxiety, worry, etc. So, therefore, if we really wish to gain happiness, then the best way is not just to change the physical place where we are staying, but the most important thing that we need to change is to change our mental attitude. By changing our mental attitude, or by improving our mental attitude, we can really achieve happiness, not only for a short time, but also in the long term. So, therefore, it is very important to know that wherever we go in this world, unless and until we change our inner mind, we won't be able to achieve the real peace and harmony and happiness. So, therefore, the whole world is in the nature of suffering. Similarly, the whole samsara is in the nature of some suffering. So, it is very important to know this, and when we know this, then it will be much easier for us to avoid or to abandon the attachment towards the samsara. And when we don't have the attachment, then it is easier to generate the sincere wish to renounce the whole samsara, the sincere wish to gain liberation from the whole samsara. Actually, Lord Buddha has given enormous amount of teachings in order to suit the different mentalities of the countless beings. So, the purpose of giving all these different kinds of teaching is to lead the sentient beings from suffering and dissatisfaction to temporary and ultimate happiness. And Buddha has not given a single word of teaching for us to remain in this world, or to remain in this samsara. So all these teachings, directly or indirectly, it is for us to gain liberation from the whole samsara, or which is to gain the liberation and then eventually to attain the Buddhahood for the sake of all the sentient beings. So the purpose of giving all these teachings by Buddha is to gain liberation for all of us. And when we study and practice these precious and profound teachings, and if our intention is not to gain liberation, but just focusing on this life and just wishing to gain worldly happiness, or happiness that we can gain in this very lifetime, then our purpose of studying and practicing Dharma and the Buddha's purpose of giving teachings contradicts to each other. So it means what we are doing is not according to the Buddha's intent. So as a Buddhist, we must follow Buddha's intent. We must follow Buddha's teaching. If we are practicing Buddha's teaching But at the same time, if we are not really following Buddha's intent, then it is not possible to gain a good result or to gain liberation. So therefore, it is very, very important for all of us to have the right motivation. And to have this, first we need to develop this thought of renunciation from the whole samsara. So developing the right motivation is important not only for the listeners, but also for the teacher. Dharma teacher, when teacher is teaching the Dharma, at that time, the teacher should also have the right motivation. Like at the moment, for me, personally, just by giving teaching, it is not sure whether I can gain merit by this teaching, by giving this teaching. So how I can determine whether I can gain merit through this teaching, through giving this teaching, that will be determined by my own motivation. If my motivation is pure, if my motivation is right, then by giving this teaching, I can gain merit, I can earn merit. But if I'm giving this teaching just to gain fame and more followers and other worldly things, then it means my intention is not pure. My intention is not right. My intention is not according to the Buddha's teaching. Then, based on this, whatever I do, whatever I teach, although I might teach according to the Buddha's teaching, but because my intention is wrong, whatever I do, I won't be able to accumulate great merit. So this can be called like the reflection of virtue. Looks like I'm doing virtuous deeds by giving this teaching, but in reality, I'm not really doing the virtuous deeds because my intention is wrong. My motivation is wrong. So whether we can or whether I can accumulate merit or not depends on my own intention. Like myself, you also, whether you can gain merit or not through listening to this teaching depends on your own motivation, depends on your own intention. If your intention is right, then of course you can gain merit. If your intention is wrong, then whatever you do, even you listen to this teaching or other teachings for so many times, still you won't be able to gain great merit. So therefore, the intention is very important. And first, it is very important for all of us, including myself, to generate or to develop the thought of renunciation from the whole samsara. And then the second is to develop the loving kindness and compassion. Generally speaking, we all have certain amount of loving kindness and compassion. But just by having any amount of loving kindness and compassion is not enough. What we really need is not just a limited loving kindness and compassion. We need to develop the limitless loving kindness and compassion. Why it is called limitless? First, the object is limitless because the object means all the sentient beings without any discrimination or without any exception. So our object of loving kindness and compassion is not only all the Buddhists, whether they are Buddhists or whether they are following any other religions, or whether they are non-believers, all the human beings, like in present day, now the population is almost 8 billion or anywhere more than 7 billion, right? So all these human beings and all the animals that are there in this world, and not only these two, but also all the other sentient beings who are in this samsara. So we should focus on all these sentient beings without any exception. Physically, we can't reach to all these beings. But mentally, there's no barrier, there's no demarcations. There's nothing that can stop our mind. There's nothing that can stop our mind. So we can extend as far as possible, as wide as possible, as many as possible. So we can extend our love or our loving kindness and compassion towards all the sentient beings without any discrimination or exception. So because the objects are limitless, that's why it is called limitless. And second, since the object is limitless, the subject, the thought, which is known as loving kindness and compassion, they also become limitless. And the action is also limitless. Our mental action is limitless towards all these beings. So because of these three, the object is limitless, the subject is limitless, the action is limitless. Because of these three limitless, this practice of loving kindness and compassion is called the limitless loving kindness and compassion. So just having a limited loving kindness and compassion is not enough. We should extend towards all the beings, as I said before. So if we really have loving kindness and compassion, then naturally we will not have any hatred, or we will not have jealousy thoughts towards anybody. So then naturally we can all live in harmony. We can all live in peace and in tranquility. So therefore, the mind training through such practices is very, very important. So loving kindness and compassion is very important. It is the fundamental practice of Mahayana teaching. It is said, if we have such practice, or if we have such quality, then all the other qualities can be together with this quality. For example, when we invite a king or queen, then we don't need to invite their entourage. Just by inviting king or queen, the entourage will be there, will follow their king or queen without having a separate invitation or without asking them to come. They will come naturally with the king or queen. So similarly, if we develop the loving kindness and compassion, then naturally we can also develop or generate many other good qualities without putting extra effort. So, therefore, loving kindness and compassion is very, very important. These are important not only at the beginning of our Buddhist path, but also when we are on the path or when we are in the middle of the path, we still need these practices. And also when we are on the result, when we are on the ultimate result, or when we are on the state of Buddhahood, still we need these loving kindness and compassion. So therefore, these qualities are important in the beginning, like a seed, and in the middle, like a fertilizer and water to grow the seed. And then also we need this at the end, like a ripening stage of the crops. So therefore, we must have these qualities. Just by hearing this meaning, we can understand the meaning. But just by understanding the meaning does not mean that now we are practicing this all the time. Even we know this meaning, even we know how important it is, but it is not that easy to put this into action. It is not that easy to put this teaching into our action, or it is not that easy to implement or to materialize this teaching into our action. So therefore, we must practice, or first we must remember this again and again, and then we try to practice this all the time. And once we are familiar with this, once we are accustomed with this, then we can easily practice loving kindness and compassion to every being, to all the beings without exception. So, to improve our mind is more important than any other improvement. Like physically, there's a limit to improve, but for our mind, there's no limit to improve. For example, a person can do a long jump or high jump to a certain level, but it is not possible for a person to do a like 10, 15 or 100 meters of long jump, or it is not possible for a person to do a 10 meter or 100 meter of high jump. It is not possible at all. So physically, there's a limit to improve. Or like we cannot jump from one mountain to another mountain. It is not possible because there's a limit to improve. But mentally, there's no limit. We can improve as much as possible. We can improve as much as possible. There's no limit. We can't say now this is the end. From there on, we can't do more. There's no such thing like this until we reach the state of Buddhahood. So therefore, it is very, very important to remember this again and again every day and try to put these into practice again and again. And the more you used to it, the better you become. the better you can practice. So, therefore, we must practice the loving kindness and compassion all the time. We should not think these practices are not profound. These practices are not the main part of the teaching. So because of that, we should not focus too much on these. It is not right to think like this. If we can do properly, if we can practice these properly, then this practice itself can become very profound and very meaningful. If you don't do it in a proper way, then no matter whatever practice that we do, even the main part of practice, still it won't be a profound practice. So whether our practice becomes profound or not depends on the teaching that we practice. It depends on how we practice the teaching. So therefore, it is very important to know the meaning properly and try to practice according to the teaching, according to the meaning of the teaching, according to the meaning of these positive thoughts. So therefore, this practice of loving kindness and compassion is very, very important. And based on these limitless loving kindness and compassion, then we need to develop the bodhicitta, or the enlightenment mind. Bodhi or enlightenment refers to a Buddha, refers to the great Buddha, and citta or mind refers to our own mind, not referring to the mind which is Buddha's. Actually, in our way of saying, we say Buddha has wisdom. We don't say Buddha has mind, or Buddha has sem, which we call it in Tibetan. So mind refers to our mind, so which means our mind that has the wish to attain Buddhahood is called the enlightenment mind, or the bodhicitta. So why we have to practice this bodhicitta? It is very important. Actually, in the Mahayana teaching, there's no practice that is not sealed by bodhicitta. If there's no bodhicitta, then it is impossible to do any Mahayana practice. So whatever we do, if we don't have the bodhicitta, then definitely such practice is not a genuine Mahayana practice. So therefore, it is very important to know how important it is to develop the bodhicitta. Actually, in the sutra, I think it says, if the benefit of developing or having bodhicitta is in a physical form, then the whole universe is too small to contain it. So it means developing bodhicitta has limitless benefits, or it has enormous amount of benefits. So to practice this, we need to base on thorough renunciation, loving kindness, and compassion. So this bodhicitta is based on non-violence. It is based on altruistic thought, or it is based on wishing all the beings to be happy. It is not based on self-cherishing thought. It is not based on hatred. It is not based on wishing others to have suffering. It is not based on such negative thoughts. It is based on positive thoughts. So the base is positive, and bodhicitta itself is positive. So bodhicitta is a mental action. Developing bodhicitta is a mental action that can directly tame our wild mind. It can directly subdue our wild mind. Actually, this mind is very important. It is the mind that does positive or negative actions. It is the mind that experiences suffering or happiness. It is the mind that goes to higher realm or lower realms. It is the mind or the mind stream that can go through higher and lower realms, and also it is the mind stream that can attain the Buddhahood. So therefore, this mind is very, very important. And mind is like the boss, and our body and speech are like a attendant to this mind. Body and speech cannot do anything without the support of our own mind. So whatever we do through our body and speech are motivated by our own mind. So the main thing is our mind. And the great Acharya Shantideva said, if we need to, or if we wish to, or when we wish to keep the precepts, first and foremost, we must put great effort or with great diligence, we should keep our own mind, or we should protect our own mind. Without keeping or protecting our own mind, it is not possible to keep our own precepts. So therefore, protecting this mind, keeping this mind in a positive form, or keeping this mind in a positive way is very important. So to keep this mind in a positive way, we need to have the genuine wish to help others. The great Acharya Shantideva said in the Bodhisattva Chayavatara that all the happiness that we gain is the result of wishing others to be happy, and all the suffering that we experience are a result of wishing ourselves to be happy. So the self-cherishing thought is the cause of our own suffering, and altruistic thought or wishing others to be happy is the cause of happiness. So therefore, it is important to help others. It is important to have the wish to help others. So there are many reasons why we have to help others. Like, for example, oneself wish to gain happiness and overcome suffering. Similarly, every sentient being also has the wish to gain happiness and to remove or to overcome the suffering. So we all have the same goal to achieve. When we have this same goal or common goal to achieve, at that time, it is not right to ignore others' welfare and well-being and just focus on ourselves or on our family, etc. So, therefore, this is the reason why we have to generate the wish to help others. Then second, we are born in this samsara not only one time. We are born in this samsara countless times. So whenever we are born, we will not have the dear ones, the same dear ones again and again. So through this, we can say and we can believe that all the beings have been our dear ones in one life or another. So when they become our dear ones, and at that time they have helped us in a great way, like present life's dear ones. So therefore, now it is the time to repay their kindness. Now we have the best opportunity to repay their kindness, because we have the human life, we have the precious human life, and we know what is to be adopted and what is to be abandoned. So at this time, when we have this precious human life, we have the best chance or best opportunity to repay their kindness. So because of this also, we have to generate the wish to help others, because this kind of wish, this kind of helping is the best way to repay their kindness. We cannot repay their kindness through material gifts. It is not possible to give a material gift to limitless sentient beings to whom we need to repay their kindness. So the best way to repay is to practice the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. So this is one of the reasons why we have to help others, why we have to practice loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta to all the beings without any exception and discrimination thoughts. And then also, when we received the bodhicitta vow, at that time we became Mahayana Buddhists. And when we received the bodhicitta vow, we promise to help all the sentient beings without any exception. So it is very important to keep our promise. In a worldly way also, someone who breaks the promise does not consider as a good person. Those who are always breaking their own promise is not considered as a good person. So similarly, in our practice also, when we receive the bodhicitta vow, we promise to help all the sentient beings. So after that, it is very important to do according to our promise. It is very important to keep our own promise. For example, when a person invites lots of guests to his or her own home, and after the invitation, then guests will come. And when they came, then at that time, the host need to receive it, and host need to have a warm reception. If the host just ignored the guests without having any warm reception, then it is not right. So similarly, when we receive the bodhicitta vow, we promise to help all the sentient beings without any exception. So after that, it is very important to practice according to our own promise. So this is also one of the reasons why we need to help all the sentient beings. So through these reasons, we need to help others. And the best way to help others is to attain Buddhahood. Without having this attainment, it is not possible to help all the beings in a best way. So therefore, we need to develop the bodhicitta in our mind. So today, for the first session of the teaching, I will conclude with motivation. So again, today's main part is on motivation, which means to develop the thought of renunciation and loving kindness and compassion to all the beings, and then to develop the bodhicitta. So with this motivation, or with such motivation, if we do any practice, then whatever we practice, it will have a great result. It will have flying result, or it can help us to earn great merit. So with this, I conclude my first session of talk, and at the end we must do a proper dedication as always. Thank you.